What's going on, guys? It's Screech here, and today we are going to be talking about the 2020 megatins. We're going to be having a look at the 4 sets: Savage Strike, Dark Neostorm, Rising Rampage, and Chaos Impact, and picking 5 cards from each set that is going to get the Prismatic Secret Rare treatment. Prismatic Secret Rares are the highest rarity that we are going to get in the megatins, and these cards aren't necessarily forced to, but in my opinion are the 5 from each set that I feel are most likely to get. Bearing in mind that a card that is already secret rare cannot be Prismatic Secret Rare in the tins if we're going off last year. We're also going to be trying to give a rough price on what they cost, and if we have a look at the 2019 megatins here in the Yu-Gi-Oh sets, we can get a rough idea of even what the most expensive chase cards would cost. The most expensive card from last year's Megatin was Borreload and was a really chased after card for a long time and sits at around $18. In English prices, that's about 15-ish pounds, and that is pretty good for a card that was once £100. We also see cards that have been common getting the prismatic treatment and coming in at a really high price, as this potentially could be the new max rarity of it. We're also going to be going in potentially condescending order from what I think they will get. The first card we're going to be looking at is we're going to start with the oldest set of the 4, which is Savage Strike, and in my opinion, these 5 I am pretty confident on. If I had to put my money on any of these getting it, it would probably be the Savage Strike set. So we're going to start with the one I feel is least likely, but has potential, which is Neo Space Connector. It's had 2 prints, but from the Soul Fusion Special Editions, and of course the Savage Strike Common. This Soul Fusion Special Edition could potentially stop this from even being in the tins. However, it is possibly the least likely card of the 5 I've chosen to get it. It sits right now at pretty penny stocks, even for the super rares from the special editions, but has seen a little bit of competitive play, especially in the Warrior decks when Isolde Turbo and that was a thing. I could see this being no more than £2 to £3, and is one of them prismatics that you probably don't want, but you'll eventually find yourself either using or becoming a part of a trade, or before you know it, spiking up in price, because this card has seen competitive play, and although isn't currently used at the time of recording, could quite easily find its way into something like the Infernoble Knight deck, or any sort of Isolde Turbo deck once again. Now, I'd love to put the other version of this card on there, but it is banned, so we're going to go for Guard Dragon Pisty, the second card from the Savage Strike set. This card hasn't been reprinted yet, and sits at quite expensive for a super rare that was certainly not short printed. I have an absolute metric ton of this card, and this card in the Prismatic Secret Rare I think would look amazing. Would like to have gone for LP or Argapane, but you know, their time's limited. Especially Agapane. He went pretty quick. Dragon LP, of course, has seen play in a lot of decks, from any pretty much generic Dragon deck to the Dragon Link, even the Dragon Link FTK that's going around currently. It is a very good card and definitely will see some play in the future if nothing happens to it on the Forbidden Unlimited list. The third card I know has had actually 2 prints, including a rarity bump in an OTS, but that doesn't stop me from giving it a prismatic treatment. Orcust Nightmare. £2 for the OTS versions and around 10p for the commons. This would quite easily sit at £3 to £4, similar price to what I reckon Guard Dragon Pisty would sit at, and I think would look amazing. Orcust is still a deck, even with no Harp Horror, and will continue to still be a deck for a very long time. Dingisu is a super easy boss monster to summon that deals with just about any problematic card you can think of, and Nightmare is one of the key pieces for the deck, and it was printed in Savage Strike. Number 4, a personal favourite of mine, and something I personally will be picking up a playset of if it comes out. Subterra Guru. Now, it did have its Ultra print in last year's Battle Legend, which I picked up an absolute load of because I thought this would be a card that would spike up in price. However, it currently sits at around $1.50, and the commons sit at bulk prices of 10 pence. This again would probably sit around the £2 to £3 mark, but Subterra is a deck you constantly have to be wary of. Even though there's no tournament plays, it's still taking places in some of the online tournaments right now, and with Numeron recently coming out, Numeron Guru is a thing, and I'm sure everyone in the Subterra chat will consistently mention that it is a thing, because it is a thing, and it's such an annoying deck to deal with. And the fifth and final card from Savage Strike is pretty obvious, and I feel is the most obvious one on this list, which is the card that is definitely due a reprint and will be a chase card in this set. Borreload Savage Dragon sits at a ridiculous price of nearly $90 right now for an ultra rare. At one point I had 4 of this card, slowly got rid of them when they hit the $30, $40, $50 mark, around the £30, £40 mark for us in Britain, and this card will tank in price. This Prismatic card will probably be £30 to £35 on release, eventually setting at around 20 to 25. Probably will be more expensive than Borreload was. Borreload only reached that price, I felt, because it had its reprint just before the megatins, and it was actually its second print within 3 months. Dark Neostorm is the next set we're going to go to, and is kind of a little bit difficult. There's a few cards in here that I just feel I have put in here because I needed a 5th one. Mainly that applies to Rising Rampage, but it does reply to the first one here, which is actually Destiny Hero Dominance. Destiny Heroes are a fun deck, and is actually a very fan favourite deck. The Destiny Hero deck has seen pretty much no competitive play, but I believe Dominance was used in the Heroes decks at the time that were beginning to top, because this thing is pretty big. Not expensive at all, 42 pence, and again will be one of those Prismatic secret rares that you do not want to see in your tins. Probably would sit around £1, £1.50, but it is a fan favourite card, and I could see it happening, but it is at the bottom of the list for Dark Neostorm. The next card is Memories of Hope. I don't feel like this card will be a Prismatic. I feel like it will be higher than a Super Rare, and that's not just because the Numerons. If the Numerons had not come out, maybe I wouldn't have even considered this card, but it is a generic-ish draw card that currently sits around £2 to £3, so pull these out your bulk and get them gone quick, because if it does get a reprint, it will affect the price of this Super Rare copy. I could see these sitting quite high, maybe around £4, £5, before eventually falling to like maybe 3 to 2 if it got its Prismatic Secret Rare treatment, that is. Now moving on to the stuff I feel is a little bit more obvious, generic, or likely to happen. We're going to start with World Legacy Monstrosity. Similar to the World Legacy Succession that we had in last year's Megatins, this is one of the World Legacy cards that's seen a little bit of play. This one helps you make True King of All Calamities really easy in a lot of decks, and is searchable off cards like the Met Knight Gearsu and other things. This is a card that I actually need, and I have opted not to pick up because it will be in the Megatins. Whether it will be Prismatic, I don't know. I feel the ultra rare copies will probably drop to £2 to £3, and the secret rares will probably go around the £4, £5 mark. However, I remember last year with World Legacy Succession, the ultras were actually more than the secrets at one point, so that could be another thing to watch. Now we move on to the last 2 cards from Dark Neostorm, and 2 cards I for sure will be picking up if they got Prismatics, because I am a degenerate scrub that loves his degenerate decks. We will go ahead and start with Crackdown. Crackdown is a super rare from the Dark Neostorm set that has never had a reprint and is reaching a pretty penny for a super rare. You can get playsets of this for around £15, but it is a very good trap card. It's stealing an opponent's monster in this game is truly broken, especially if it does not leave your possession at the end phase or something like Creature Swap does, and it's really, really good. This card as a Prismatic Secret Rare could be one of the more pricier cards, probably around the mid-range, probably at release 10 to 15, probably dropping eventually to around about 8 to 6. I could see these supers still holding some value, maybe around £3, but this is the kind of card that will eventually get reprinted into the ground and thrown into structure decks and stuff. And last but not least, oh, how people cry for it to be banned, how I cry for it to be the Prismatic secret rare that I require. Mystic Goddamn Mine. The card is loved, the card is hated, it is such a split in the community, and people just want it banned. But not before this £10 super rare gets its prismatic treatment in the megatins. Oh, how this thing will look so good in Prismatic Secret Rare, and oh, how I cannot wait for it to get it. I'm pretty confident this will get its rarity bump, probably all the way to Prismatic, depending how many of these new imports and stuff that we get. Mystic Mine Prismatic Secret Rares will probably sit at quite expensive, somewhere around the Call by the Grave mark, maybe around the £10 to £15 mark on release, eventually setting to £10. And these supers can still hold a lot of value, probably around 6. People are after this in play sets, so it has potential to hold a lot of value. And if this thing doesn't get hit on any ban list, will only continue to increase till it gets its continuous reprints. We're going to move on to the next set, Rising Rampage, and in my opinion, it is the worst set of the 4 we're going to talk about today. I actually had to scroll up and down this list for about 20 minutes to try and find the 4th card. However, we are going to go with Marincess Seahorse. Marincess Seahorse, probably the least likely. I feel this is definitely be in the tins, but I feel it's going to go the opposite way, maybe to super rare or rare, but I've given it the prismatic in this prediction solely because I couldn't really find much else, and the rest of the Marincess stuff does look pretty nice in secret rare. Could also give it to wave or blue slug, but for anyone that is still playing this deck, this in prismatic secret rare again probably will look nice and will hold a little bit of value, probably around £2 to £3. The ultras sit are actually quite expensive. £7 for an ultra rare that's not seeing any competitive play at all. Although I did rock up to locals the other week with this and went 3-1. I highly doubt this, but like I said, Rising Rampage is possibly the worst set out of the 5. Moving on to another card that I feel will be in here for one reason and one reason only, and that is just because it says Borreload in the name. Borreload X-Charge Dragon, sitting at 50 goddamn cent for an ultra rare from a core set. Oh, what's going on here? We've just we've gone to the full core set apparently. Borreload X-Charge Dragon sitting at 50 cent for a core card. If we just have a quick look at this whole set, you can see how low some of this stuff gets really fast, excluding, of course, the secret rares and the odd ultra rare. Stuff in this set is absolute pennies, and it's not a good set. But Borreload X-Charge Dragon, I feel, will just get the secret rare because it is the Borreload name. And with that, we are going to move on to our 4th card and our 5th card, which are both conveniently on this page. This card right here, Barricade Board Blocker, has seen a lot of competitive play because of how generic it is, the fact it's a machine, and the fact it can discard. It's seen quite a lot of competitive play, so much that people were pleading for this to be a super rare in OTS 13. And for those of you who have looked at OTS 13 or maybe even got your hands on it, you'll know that that set sucks and every card that we asked for didn't get in. So that tells me that this card will get its reprint in the megatins and will have its rarity bump. And I think all the way to Prismatic Secret Rare. I don't know how many slots for the Prismatic Secret Rares we get. I just chose 5 from each set because it's a nice round number. But I could see this card having a quite high pre-sale price, maybe like £7-8, before eventually just dropping to like 2. It's not used in every deck, but people will still want it, and the fact that it is going from a common to a foil print will mean it's quite desirable, which could quite easily up the price. And the only other card I could really see from Rising Rampage that wasn't already secret rare that has seen some competitive play, and I sure know that there is one person I know that will be probably very happy with this. 10-Year Spirit Vishuda has seen a little bit of competitive play and actually already has had its OTS reprint in OTS 12 as a super rare. However, a pound for the super rares, we got 60p on the rares, probably will sit around the £1 to £2 mark again, just because it is Prismatic Secret Rare, but it is a good card and will continue to see competitive play, probably throughout the years until it eventually gets power crept, which it kind of already did with like Pankatops, even though that came out before it, etc, etc. But it is a good card, and I could see it potentially getting the Prismatic Secret Rare treatment. We move on to the last set, the Chaos of the Impact. Now, the first card I'm going to talk about here is actually another 10-year card. Draco Berserker of the 10-year, the Synchro for 8 generic, has seen minor competitive play, and as you can see sits at around £6 right now. This always sort of got overshone by Omega, Borreload Savage, and many other cards, but has found its way to creep into a few different decks. This has a really good effect that has become use in some competitive decks, and more importantly, is a big attack line and is generic. Probably the least likely of the 5 on this list to happen, but could potentially happen. Probably again this would drop to around $1, and probably again with the Prismatic would probably sit around the same. The next card we're going to talk about is actually an Unchained card, and although a lot of the stuff in here is secret rare, one of the things did actually get Ultra, and probably the one that's seen the most competitive play. Unchained Abomination was one of the first widely used links that only required 2 monsters for material. Although it required a link monster, people used this in a lot of competitive decks because the fact it just destroys everything. I believe this is the one that pops 3 on the end phase because they all just sort of trigger each other's effect. Sitting at around £5, these copies here would probably drop to 2, and the secret rares will probably sit around the £4 mark as well. A card I know a lot of people picked up at sneak peeks, although I haven't seen it used a lot. Gallic Granite is the generic rock XZ searcher that could get its potential prismatic secret rare print in the megatins. Not really too much from Chaos Impact until we talk about these next 2 cards, which for sure will be 2 chase cards. Sitting at around £2, probably this will drop to below £1, and the secret rares will probably sit around this sort of price at £2. It's pretty good, it's generic, it searches for any rock or special summons, you can search for Nibiru, etc, etc. Now we're moving on to 2 chase cards in the set for sure. Striker Dragon has been used in Rockets, which was a fan favourite deck because it was used in the anime. People will be after this in 2s and 3s, and for a £14 ultra rare, the reprint of this is overdue. I feel the ultra copies would probably sit at around 6 to 7, and the secrets would go to probably around 10. The card is very good, it's used in Dragon Link, in the FTK, in generic rockets, it's used in a lot of stuff, and I know a lot of people that picked up the rocket structure deck, but didn't play it to its highest level because they refused to pay this price for this card. And last but not least, and possibly the most expensive card in the Megatins this year, IP Masquerena has seen competitive play in so many decks. This thing is generic, it helps you climb into other links, and it helps you make them on your opponent's turn. And I can also not spell it. There we go. IP Masquerena sits at £43 for an ultra rare. This will drop to maybe 20, 25 initially, and the secrets will probably sit around 30, eventually will drop to maybe 25. I feel this year's Megatins are going to be ridiculously expensive for those chase cards, solely because a lot of the chase cards that we are after are probably going to get the rarity bumps and haven't had other reprints outside of the Megatins. Similar to stuff if you look into previous years, like Evenly Matched, it didn't have any reprints up until the Megatin, and the Megatin ones now sit at around £30. The originals sit at around 35, even the Ultras sit at around 20. Similar to some previous tins where we've sort of not had any reprints for these cards. However, we're going to have a quick discussion about some cards that I think will not be in the tins, and the reason I have not chose them for the prismatic treatment. Or if I go ahead and make this maybe on the ultra rares, because that is what most people are more excited about for the tins this time, same as last year. Dingirsu has had a lot of prints, including a recent print in the dual Overload set, I nearly said dual power, and is pretty cheap and pretty affordable. Even the originals coming in at only around £3 right now, the ultis around 35, and the supers now sitting at 2. I feel this is a card that may get skipped in the Megatins. Same sort of treatment can be said with Signet Mining. It's had its ultra rare. However, this is a card I think will get reprinted into the ground in the future and will be in a structure deck before you know it. There's a few other cards that come to mind, but I'm going to wrap it up there and let you decide amongst yourself of what cards will get the prismatic treatment this year. If you enjoyed this video, guys, you should leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! News, content, deck profiles, and whatever else I decide to upload on this channel. It's been your boy Screech, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.